Welcome to Dawn of the New Earth. My name is Morgue. I'm an ex-Christian revealing hidden knowledge to create a new earth. And today we're taking a look at the darkest secret of Sodom and Gomorrah and the real reason why God wanted to destroy this city as revealed in a banned Gnostic text. This is going to be good. It's going to be wild. It's going to be weird. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a very strange one, a very twisted one, a very depraved one where I'm going to have to choose my words very carefully so that YouTube doesn't get mad about some of these words. As a little intro as to why that is, if you can understand the word Sodom, if you slap a Y on the end of that word, that's where that word comes from. It comes from this story in the Bible of Sodom and Gomorrah. And man, oh man, are you going to see why? So what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah? What is the secret according to the Gnostics? Why did God actually want to destroy this city? There's a lot we're going to unpack today. It's going to get good, and we're going to get started right away. But as always, please like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my work and want to see my channel grow, become a member here on YouTube. Just hit the join button right below this video, and you can see all the stuff you can get. There's a lot of great stuff. You can access to our members-only videos. There's hundreds of them by now, probably. There's a new one every week. And we're having a members-only video right after this called Could a Spiritual Particle Explain Existence? That's going to be good. So you can get access to that, all that. Check out all the different perks. And I want to remind you that my third book just came out on 1 week ago. And that is Cosmogenesis. Cosmogenesis, the Awakening Universe, which explores the evolution of reality from the Big Bang to the end of time with the understanding that we are reality understanding itself. Now, if you don't know where to begin, because this is book 3, start with book 1, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. You can check out all of these books that I've written at the link in the description of this video. And you can also follow me on Spotify. Look up Dawn of the New Earth on Spotify. Follow me there. All right, let's get started, my friends. We are talking about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And I remember growing up Christian when I was a Christian kid, and this was a very strange story, a very sick story, a very gross story, like a lot of stories in the Bible are. But we're going to unpack it. We're going to see what it means, and then we're going to see what the Gnostics believed about Sodom and Gomorrah. And this is going to be in a Gnostic text known as the Paraphrase of Shem. And if you haven't seen the other videos on that book, check them out. They're very strange. It's one of the most disturbing creation stories ever. We have basically light and darkness having an orgy with nature. Very strange indeed. But we're going to be taking a look at the Gnostic interpretation of Sodom. But for those who don't know what Sodom and Gomorrah, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, probably a lot of you may not know that. Some of you probably do, but a few may not. But let's have a refresher as to what this is all about. So if you'd all open up your Bibles, please don't. Let's see. We're taking a look here. So this is at Genesis 18. So here's what's going on. Genesis 18. What is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? So apparently there is this city that's supposed to be very evil. Now, remember, according to the Gnostics, God is evil. According to Gnosticism, God is an evil, dark, satanic being that's trying to keep humanity imprisoned on earth and keep them from realizing that they are actually divine souls that can ascend to the pleroma, the realm of true light, and become more powerful than the God of the Bible. So he's constantly trying to stop them from realizing this by trapping them in material bodies, wiping their memory, splitting them into male and female, forbidding them from eating the tree of knowledge, and when they start to get too smart, trying to destroy them all in the flood. So could the story of Sodom have something to do with that? What do the Gnostics think about that? So according to the Bible, just like according to the Bible, humanity was becoming evil, and that's why God tried to destroy the world, or did destroy all of humanity except for Noah and his family, according to the Bible. According to Gnostics, though, some Sethians were saved in the cloud of light. But what's going on here? So here's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah according to the Bible. Sodom, apparently the city is very evil. And essentially, Abraham is trying to convince God Abraham is a servant of God. Abraham is trying to convince God not to destroy this city. And so Abraham goes to God and says, hey, God, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? So basically he's saying, hey, look, you want to destroy this city of Sodom, but what if there are some good people in Sodom? Are you going to destroy all the good people along with the bad people? And so Abraham says, look, what if there are 50 good people in the city? Will you really destroy it and not spare it for the sake of the 50 people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? Which is a really interesting story where it's like, you can see God is such a horrible character that even Abraham is being like, this is pretty effed up. Abraham is saying, look, if you destroy this entire city, you're going to destroy the good people along with the bad people. That's screwed up. And he's saying, and so, you know, it's kind of ironic because this is apparently a problem now, but then you fast forward to so many other stories in the Bible where God has their firstborn children of all of Egypt killed, including the firstborn of the cattle and the animals. Wasn't a problem then, I guess, but now apparently it's a problem. But anyway, Abraham tells this to God, and God says, okay, fine. If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I'll spare the whole place for their sake. So you find me 50 good people, I won't destroy the city. And so Abraham spoke up again and said, well, okay, now that I have been so bold to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number's less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? And God said, fine, if I find 45 there, I won't destroy it. Well, once again, Abraham spoke to him and said, well, what if there's only 40? And so God said, for the sake of 40, fine, I won't do it. Then Abraham said, well, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if there's only 30? And God said, fine, I won't do it if there are 30. And Abraham, this is such a ridiculous story. Abraham said, now that I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found? And he said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. And then Abraham said, well, okay, don't be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found? And God said, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. And when the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. So Abraham got lucky that God was in a good mood, because God usually kills people for less than this. But God, you know, Abraham's wheeling and dealing with God. And so essentially the deal is, hey, if I can find 10 good people in Sodom, don't destroy it. And God's like, okay, fine. If you find 10 good people in Sodom, I won't destroy it. So what ends up happening here is that there aren't apparently 10 good people. The only good people, according to the Bible, that exist in Sodom and Gomorrah, or specifically Sodom, is a man named Lot and his family. Okay? So there probably wasn't 10 of them, but I don't know how many, I forget how many was in his family. But Lot and his family were supposedly righteous servants of the Lord. Okay? Now, a couple things I want to point out here. First of all, we're going to see that Lot and his family are pretty effed up. They're not great people. And so for them to be considered like great servants of the Lord, not a great sign. But so here's the deal. God is like, okay, well, I want to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But Lot and his family, they're my servants. So what I'm going to do is warn Lot and his family to get the F out of there, because I'm about to nuke everything. So it says 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground and said, "My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go away early in the morning." So he's saying, hey, come over to my house. You can spend the night and then continue, because he realized that they were angels. And the angels answered and said, "No, we will spend the night in the square right here out in the open." But he insisted so strongly, Lot insisted so strongly, that they did go with him and entered his house. And he prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Now, here's where things start to get pretty effed up. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house, and they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them." So now, perhaps you understand where that particular word, Sodom, that ends with a Y, why it comes from this story. And by the way, this is a lot of the times a reason that many Christians say that, I have to be very careful with my words on this one, why a certain form of intercourse is sinful. They point to this story as to why a certain form of intercourse is not okay with God, because of this very weird story. Anyway, so they surround the house and say, "Hey, we're those angels. We want to F them." And Lot, and then look at how effed up this is. And remember, this is supposed to be a righteous servant of God. Lot's supposed to be a righteous servant of God. So Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. And he said, "No, my friends, hey, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I've got 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." You see how this is, the Bible is such a horrible book. Here you have this guy who's supposed to be this great servant of God saying, "Hey, you can do whatever you want to my virgin daughters." This is the stuff that triggers me. This is I can feel, I'm start getting upset. Makes me very angry. You imagine teaching this stuff to a kid? Like, I was taught this is bullshit. This is bullshit to teach to a kid. Anyway, so this is what's going on. And so the men, all the throngs of very aroused men say, "Get out of our way. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to be the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." Oh, it's not good. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. Man, they need to keep it in their pants. So they're trying to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so they could not find the door. Okay, so the angels grabbed Lot, pulled him back in, and made all the very horny people blind. And the 2 men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, son-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we're going to destroy everything." The outcry to the Lord against his people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So these angels are going to nuke everything. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-laws, who were pledged to marry his daughters, and said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord's about to destroy it." But his son-in-laws thought he was joking, so they didn't listen. With the coming of the dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." So it's just Lot. This is going to be important in a minute. So remember who is part of this ensemble. We have Lot, his wife, and the 2 daughters. Okay? So when Lot hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they'd brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives, don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away. So run, don't look back, just keep going. We're going to nuke everything. Don't stop for anything. But Lot said to them, no, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you've shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. He said to them, very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly because I can't do anything until you reach it. This is why the place was called Zoar. All right, so they're running away. And by the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. So fire, raining fire and sulfur came burning down. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities. Keep in mind, there's kids in the cities. This is everybody. Little babies. Animals. All right. Anyway. And also the vegetation in the land. And I realize, right, like, obviously, according to the Bible, the people in Sodom aren't great people. But there's going to be innocent kids there, you know? Like, I'm sure there's a ton of innocent kids and animals and whatnot. God is just unaliving. But we're going to see when we get to the Gnostic interpretation, we're going to see the Gnostic interpretation is completely different. Just like the Gnostic said, no, the reason why God flooded the earth wasn't because they were evils, because they were starting to realize God was evil and not worshiping anymore. We're going to see that they had a different view of Sodom as well. But anyway, so the Lord is just throwing all this fire down and destroying Sodom and Gomorrah. And everything living, even all the vegetation, just everything, just desolating it. It says, but Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. The Bible is so weird. Now, look, if you're interpreting this metaphorically and symbolically, okay, yeah, I'm sure you could pull out some interesting metaphors and symbolism in this here. But remember, I was taught that this was literally true. This was a historical event that actually happened, and many Christians are taught that this is a literally true historical event that happened. And so here you have Lot's wife, who all she does is look behind her, and God kills her, turns her into salt. Like, don't make it sound nicer than it is. He unalives her. She turns into salt. Anyway, real nice guy, right? Anyway, early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he stood before the Lord. He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Okay, so that's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. But before we get to the Gnostic interpretation, I'm going to go a little bit further. Some of you have heard me talk about this story before, but I just want to emphasize it again because it's so messed up. And it's one of the most messed up things in the Bible, in my opinion. Because remember, Lot is supposed to be a righteous servant of God. Lot's supposed to be a righteous servant of God. His son-in-laws that were supposed to marry his daughters, they wouldn't come, so they were unalived in Sodom and Gomorrah. His wife turned around, turned into a pile of salt, so she was unalived. So all we have left are three people. We have Lot and his two daughters. So here's what happens. Lot and his two daughters, they end up going up into the mountains. They were afraid to stay in the city Zoar. So they go up into the mountains. And he and his two daughters live in a cave. Trigger warning, this is a weird story. All right. So essay trigger warning here. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let us get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father. So the plan is to get him drunk and and continue their line. So that night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she laid down or when she got up. So he didn't even know. So this was SA. This was just straight up roofing their dad. And anyway, the next day, the older daughter said to the younger, last night, hey, I slept with dad. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father. So they got their father to drink wine that night again, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he wasn't aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. It's such a great story. Isn't the Bible a great book? Such a great story for children to read. Isn't this a great children's story? It is so fucked up that this book is considered like the holy, perfect word of God. And these sort of stories are taught to, like, I was taught this as a kid. I remember hearing about these stories as a kid. It's such a screwed up thing to teach a kid. Well, to anyone really. But the fact is, you see all these people who are trying to ban all these books from schools because they're like, oh, it's like sexually perverse or something. When this is just one part of the Bible and you already have words I can't say, family relations, SA, intoxication without non-consent. So anyway, so the point is, though, is that according to the Bible, Lot's supposed to be this righteous guy where you have him offering his daughters to men to do anything they want to him. Then later on, his daughters are getting with him. And this is supposed to be like a righteous family of God. Maybe there's something a little messed up here. And that's exactly what the Gnostics thought. That's why the Gnostics looked at all the scriptures and was like, this God is screwed up and the people who follow him are screwed up. There's something wrong here. There's a problem here. And so now let's take a look and see what the Gnostics had to say about it. So we're going to now turn to a book that was once banned by the church, considered heretical, called the Paraphrase of Shem. And the Paraphrase of Shem is a very interesting story of creation. And it gets very weird. I'm not about to explain the whole thing because it's very, very strange. Check out my playlist called the most disturbing creation story ever told, or something along those lines. I'll have the link at the end of this video. It'll pop up on screen. But anyway, it essentially is like light and darkness having an orgy with nature. And basically what you need to know is that it's about a being called Derdekius revealing information to someone named Shem. Derdekius most likely represents Jesus Christ because he is an emissary from the light here to bring knowledge and help people realize what they are. And then Shem is most likely representative of Seth, who was one of the sons of Adam and Eve. And according to Gnosticism, the true son of Adam and Eve, who we are all descendants from and have the power to realize that we're divine. So anyway, and by the way, we're going to skip over some very strange things just because, like, okay, remember, you guys can read all this for free on gnosis.org, by the way, gnosas.org. It's a great website. You can read all the Gnostic texts on there, almost all the Gnostic texts on there. They don't have the Gospel of Judas, but almost all the others they have. And you can read them for free. And we're going to skip some parts, but if you want to read it, go read it because there's some weird stuff. Like, just for example, nature turned her dark vagina and cast from her the power of fire, which was in her from the beginning through the rubbing of the darkness. So lots of flaming vaginas. And what else? There's some weird, I don't know. There's more things about demon seed, and you know the drill. If you saw the other videos, you know this is a very wild creation story that's very explicit. All right, very explicit. So it's kind of interesting that they would throw the story of Sodom in here, because Sodom's pretty explicit as well. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah. So they start to discuss the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in this very explicit heretical text, which is a Gnostic text, one of the weirdest Gnostic texts. But let's see what it says about Sodom and Gomorrah. So this section is titled Sodom, City of Gnosis, is unjustly burned. So they're saying that Sodom is the city of Gnosis and it was unjustly burned. What does Gnosis mean? Remember, Gnosis comes from the word, it's the Greek word for knowledge. Gnosis is the Greek word for knowledge. So Sodom, city of knowledge, is unjustly burned. And gnosis isn't just like an intellectual knowledge. Gnosis is like enlightenment. So this is basically Sodom, the city of enlightenment, is unjustly burned. They're saying that Sodom was the city of enlightenment. And if you look at the track record as of God, according to the Gnostics, this fits in with God first trying to trap humanity into bodies, wiping their memory, splitting them in two, forbidding them from eating from the tree of knowledge, trying to drown them all because they were becoming too smart. And this would fit in with trying to destroy a city that was becoming enlightened. So here, this is Derdekius speaking, which is like Jesus, essentially the Jesus figure. And for I shall hasten down to the world to take the light of that place, the one that faith possesses, and I shall appear to those who will acquire the thought of the light of the Spirit, for because of them my majesty appeared. So essentially, Jesus is saying that he is bringing the light. Remember, this also is representative of higher consciousness. So this is the light of higher consciousness being brought to the dark world. When he will have appeared upon the earth in the place that will be called Sodom, then safeguard the insight that I shall give you. So essentially, this knowledge, this knowledge, this higher consciousness, according to this story, this knowledge of enlightenment, this knowledge of gnosis, is being brought to Sodom. And so here, Sodom and Sodomites are considered spiritually enlightened. Sodom is a place of insight and a place where pure hearts gather, which is completely different from what it says in the Bible, which is they're obviously morally corrupt, specifically sexually related in that one. So, in other words, in Gnostic thought, Sodom is represented by a place where divine knowledge is kept. It says, for those whose heart was pure will congregate to you because of the word that you will reveal. So very interesting here that, so in the biblical story, it's a complete opposite. In the biblical story, you essentially have, the angels that go to Sodom, and then all the evil people congregate and want to F the angels. Here, it's a complete opposite. Here, it's saying that when Shem brings the light to Sodom, all of those with pure heart will go to you, will go to them. For when you appear in the world, dark nature will shake against you, together with the winds and a demon, that they may destroy the insight. So here, a couple different things happening here. We have Shem, who is essentially safeguarding and revealing gnosis. Safeguarding and revealing gnosis. And the Sodomites are connected to Shem as sort of being his, spiritually enlightened along with him. Also having achieved gnosis and connected to Shem and his teachings. They are potential recipients for divine knowledge. But Derdekius, or the Jesus figure, is saying that when you do this, though, you are going to come up against the forces of darkness. And it talks about a demon and a dark nature that's going to oppose Shem and the gnosis that he's trying to teach. So for when you appear in the world, dark nature will shake against you together with the winds and a demon, that they may destroy the insight. So you have the power of darkness, the power of ignorance, trying to destroy this enlightenment that's being preached and spread about Sodom. But you proclaim quickly to the Sodomites your universal teaching, for they are your members. So he's saying quickly explain and preach this universal teaching, this teaching of creation, this teaching of gnosis, this teaching of enlightenment, this teaching that one can transcend the dark material world into the pleroma, the realm of pure light. Spread this quickly to the Sodomites. For the demon of human form will part from that place by my will, since he is ignorant. He will guard this utterance. But the Sodomites, according to the will of the majesty, will bear witness to the universal testimony. So they're going to bear witness to it. They're going to understand it. They will rest with a pure, and you can see this is the complete opposite of it. Here, the Sodomites aren't these unjust, morally corrupt people. They are of pure heart, the recipients of enlightenment and understanding of universal teaching and bearing witness to universal testimony. With pure consciousness, they will, pure conscience. They will rest with a pure conscience in the place of their repose, which is the unconceived spirit. And as these things will happen, Sodom will be burned unjustly by a base nature, for the evil will not cease in order that your majesty may reveal that place. So here you have Shem trying to spread enlightenment and knowledge throughout the city of Sodom, but the narrator, this Jesus Christ-like figure, is saying that you're going to come up against the forces of darkness. They're going to oppose you, and they're going to burn this city. And so remember, this is all metaphorical. This is all allegorical. And I think you can understand how this makes sense as to what happens in the real world. In the real world, when you're trying to spread knowledge and you're trying to spread enlightenment, guess what happens? You have the forces of darkness trying to stop that from happening. Very, ignorant, low-minded people trying to, bring humanity back to the dark ages. And they probably, just like they try to make the Sodomites look evil, they try and make, enlightened people look evil. They come up with all these weird conspiracy theories and lies and bullshit to try and make them look evil. So you can see that, today all around us, we can see that going on, this battle between, light and darkness, knowledge and ignorance happening right now before us, playing out before our eyes today. So then the demon will depart. So they're equating the God of the Bible as this evil demon, this demonic figure of darkness that will unjustly burn the city and keep them to try and keep the world in ignorance. And then the demon will depart with faith, and then he will appear in the four regions of the world. And when faith appears in the last likeness, then will her appearance become manifest. For the firstborn is the demon who appeared in the union of nature with many faces. For when he appears in the world, evil passions will arise, and earthquakes and wars and famines and blasphemies. For because of him, the whole world will be disturbed. So here, this is most likely referencing the God of the Bible and the rise of, like a dark and evil faith, keeping humanity in ignorance. The same, being that destroyed Sodom is now going out to the four corners of the world to spread this darkness. For when he appears in the world, evil passions will arise, earthquakes, wars, famines, blasphemies. For because of him, the whole world will be disturbed. He will seek the power of faith and light, but he will not find it. For at the time, the other demon will appear upon the river to baptize with an imperfect baptism and to trouble the world with a bondage of water. Now, this might be referencing John the Baptist, because it says another demon will appear upon the river to baptize with an imperfect baptism to trouble the world with the bondage of water. What does that mean? Well, this is a Gnostic text, but we can kind of understand if we look at a Cathar text. This is very explicit in the Cathar text, the Secret Supper. In the Cathar text, the Secret Supper, John is known as John the Baptist, and he baptizes people with water. Well, the Cathars were very against baptism by water because they saw the material world as being evil. And so they were for, they had an act called a consolamentum. And so they believed in the baptism of spirit, being spiritually baptized, not through water, but spiritually baptized, saying that being baptized through water is straying away from the true understanding of what one is, and is representative of being, not just being baptized in water, but what the whole system of faith that goes along with that baptism. So essentially they're saying here, this is this other demon that's going to be baptizing people by water, basically leading people astray, leading people to the wrong faith, because a true baptism is not a baptism of water, but a baptism of spirit, being spiritually baptized. But it is necessary for me to appear in the members of the thought of faith to reveal the great things of my power. I shall separate it from the demon who is Suldus. And so we're having this, Derdekius, this Christ-like figure, saying that he's going to come down and reveal the light of knowledge, separating it from the demon. And the light that he possesses from the spirit I shall mix with my invincible garment, as well as him who I shall reveal in the darkness for your sake and for the sake of your race, which will be protected from the evil darkness. So essentially what is being said here is we have this story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where according to the Bible, according to Christian interpretation, it's this story of evil, of sexual depravity, and Lot is a good and faithful servant of God, and God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah and spares Lot and his daughters. But I mean, when you really look at the story, it gets very dark, because you realize that means God unalived innocent children and all the animals and the vegetables as well, even if the people were not good. And Lot and his family were supposed to be very faithful to God and righteous. And then you have his daughters essaying him, and, like father, like daughter, I guess, because he wanted to give them to the crowd to do whatever they wanted with them. So a ton of depravity. The Gnostics looked at this story and had a completely different interpretation and said this was a city of gnosis, a city of knowledge, a city of enlightenment, and an evil demon tried to destroy it, to spread ignorance, to spread darkness. And after destroying the city of Sodom, he went to the four corners of the earth, bringing darkness and ignorance all over the earth. Another demon arose, giving a false baptism of water and continuing to spread darkness across the world. But the light will come and spread and separate from the darkness and be available to those who are seeking it. So, very interesting, my friends. What I want to know is, tell me in the comments, what do you think about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? Do you favor the biblical interpretation? Do you favor the Gnostic interpretation? Do you have your own interpretation? Just tell me what you think. It's a very interesting story. But always remember that, hey, these stories are metaphors. These stories are symbolic. Didn't actually happen. It did not happen like it said in the Bible. And it didn't happen like it says in these Gnostic texts. These are symbolic for the forces of ignorance constantly trying to cover up and destroy enlightenment and knowledge and understanding of the self and each other. And we can see it playing out all around us right now. We can see that demon going to the four corners of the earth, spreading darkness and spreading ignorance. But that light is ours to bring to the world, to proclaim. The second coming of Christ isn't something that's going to happen in the future with Jesus coming down from the clouds with trumpets blaring and all that bullshit. We are the second coming of Christ. It's a coming of a new consciousness. It's the return of Christ consciousness within all of us. And we are here to cultivate it within ourselves and help others cultivate it in themselves. And we are engaged in this battle against these demonic forces. Remember, all metaphorical, all symbolic, but a very real occurrence nonetheless, real in the fact that the forces of ignorance are very real and the forces of consciousness and enlightenment is very real. So check out my playlist if you want to know more about this Gnostic text. It's really interesting. There's a lot of strange things in it, a lot of very fantastic things in it as well. Check it out. The playlist is on the paraphrase of Shem. And check out my new book, Cosmogenesis. If you don't know where to begin with book 1, Neogenesis. Link is in the description of this video. And if you enjoy my work, become a member right here on YouTube. Hit the join button. For those who are at the Pathfinder tier or higher, we're going to have a members only video right after this about could a spiritual particle explain existence? That's going to be very good. You'll get access to all of our members only videos as well at that tier or higher. I'm going to give a big shout out to everyone who supports. Thank you all very much, my friends, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, DB, Nusalina, Christopher, Eon, Vanessa, and Dallas. Thank you very much.